Love finances the other F word and want to support the show? Become a patron by going to patreon.com/FTOFW. You'll get special features, a shout out on the air, and early releases. Or if you prefer, pick up some merchandise at financestheotherfword.com.
As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, as wonderful an attorney as I am, and as good as Stormy is at whatever it is he does, please do note that anything said in our podcasts are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, Stormy Andrews, founder of Yokel Local Marketing, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Finances, the Other F Word. And this week we are going to talk about if professional teams coming to your town are really worth the expense. And there's a lot of economic arguments about that. And we're going to get into some heavy financial numbers here in a minute. But first, what we wanted to do was what is it like before you smell something? You smell coffee grounds first to get like primed for the fun stuff, which is of course the finances. So Zoe's going to come in with like a little, I almost said lube. Zoe's going to come.
Oh, I'm happy to be the lube.
Zoe's going to come in with a little bit of a not pre-tinsel, like a why can't I think of anything today? Lube, some pre-lube. And then I'm going to do the heavy sticking it to you. And then she's going to come in and just
and then I'm going to cuddle you. I'm going to cuddle you at the end. How about that?
Your hair and clean you up a little bit and cuddle you. So that's how we'll proceed with this episode so that we can kind of keep your palate nice and fresh. So I don't know. I think she's going to be talking about some bullshit about football or something, right? Actually, I'm sorry, not football, soccer. I apologize. I always get those confused.
No, you said it right the first time. Well, what I'm going to be talking about is sports stars who have tried their hand at music, but that's going to be later on. But I'm going to start off with, as you correctly said, the first time, kind of a football music story that's British. So bear with me. So not to keep banging on about it, but many English football
I know. I always heard it as a little kid. I'm like banging, like I can't. Everybody does a hand sign. I guarantee you, there's listeners. As soon as they heard that, they were like banging. Like I know we're all fucking 11-year-olds. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. I'm such a child that I, cackled at it as well and lost my train of thought. So as I was saying, many English football fans. I'm sorry to keep banging on about it, but we're still reeling from the crushing defeat in the Euro finals against Italy, where, as you know, we lost in a 3-2 penalty shootout where we're all on the edge of our seats. And then, it's over. We lost. And I have to, I can't talk about England in the Euro final without also pointing out that we're equally disgusted by some of the despicable behavior of we can only call them hooligans, who attacked the Italian supporters after the game. And
what? Hold on. What? I have no idea about this at all.
Oh yeah. I mean, football fans, football fans.
I would like a flan. That sounds delicious.
Football fans in England have a bad reputation. In Britain have a bad reputation, and quite rightly so, unfortunately. And they didn't let us down, unfortunately. And after the England-Italy game, there was some fucking disgusting behavior. First of all, immediately after the game, some English fans decided to go and beat up the Italian fans, and then, go and just vandalize, trash the various, wherever they were. They're all drunk and disorderly. Not all of them, a minority, but a disgusting minority, you know, went about their business pissing in the streets and just vandalizing places and just disgusting behavior. So that's bad enough. But then the internet trolling and hooliganism started because three of the England players who missed the penalty shootouts were black. And so, of course, they had to make it about race. And again, there's been some just disgusting behavior.
But I heard that there was good people on both sides, Zoe.
That's what your guy said, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh shit, not my guy.
So, you know, I had to bring it up just to say how we all completely, anyone who's got a fucking brain cell, support the whole England team. I think they did fantastic, and do not support the disgusting behavior of the few that went on to just behave badly, either in person or behind their cowardly computers afterwards. So anyway, but moving on. English football is kind of a great example of sport crossing over to music in varying degrees of success, because we have an iconic football anthem called Three Lions, right? And it was written by two comedians, David Baddiel and Frank Skinner. And I used to have a huge crush on Frank Skinner.
I'm not going to know any of these people, am I?
No, you're not.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah,
then I'll just relax.
You relax, lay back, and but you do have to put Three Lions on our Spotify playlist, along with a whole heap of shit music later on. But so Three Lions is just an iconic football anthem that was written by two comedians, Baddiel and Skinner, and the English rock band The Lightning Seeds, which you've probably never heard of. But they, you know, I had one of their albums, probably the only album that really did any good, called, I think it was Jollification. Anyway, in 1996. Now, 1996, this came out, and we're still fucking singing it and playing it now. And it will not die. So, and like I said, you'll put it on the playlist. So or you can Americans.
If I can find it. If I can find, I might not be able to find it.
Oh, you'll fucking find it. It's 25 years and we still play it.
I think that's a testament to how behind the times you guys are, more so than anything. But I guess we're still chanting, "We will rock you" at stadiums. So touche. Right. Go on.
And honestly, whether you're a football fan or not, everyone knows the words, sings this song, and it will creep into your brain and it will stay there once you've heard it. Oh, wow. So the song, it's called Three Lions, but it's also called Football's Coming Home. It's coming home. It was, although it clearly isn't and hasn't since 1966, but we'll keep on singing it until it eventually does. It was released in 1996 to mark England's participation in the UEFA European Championship, which we were hosting in 1996. And it was released at the height of Britpop. Ian Brodie of the Lightning Seeds wrote the music, and then Baddiel and Skinner wrote the lyrics, and then all three of them sang the song. And it's one of only 3 songs to top the British charts more than once. And whenever there's like a big major football tournament, it gets played and it enters the charts. And it's like the quintessential football anthem. It's been number 1 in the UK on 4 different occasions over the years, over the past 25 years. It's sold more than 1.2 million copies. It's been streamed more than 38.4 million times, had 88,000 downloads and over 33 million video views. But in a kind of a radio interview a few years ago, one of the comedians, David Baddiel, joked, because people are always saying to him, "Oh, you must be able to retire off that." He's like, you know, welcome to the world of musicians. Mm-hmm. Fucking kidding, right? Because he said, like, in 1 year, they probably made £800 in royalties off that song because of how little musicians get from streaming and shit like that. But anyway, which we've talked about. But anyway, so that's just what I'm opening up the show with, just how, you know, football's coming home, although it's not, but maybe next year, World Cup next year. It's being held in Qatar. And yeah, maybe England will bring it home this time, but
The conviction in your voice is underwhelming.
yeah, I'm British. We really know it's not, but we'll still paint our face, get drunk, and some of us will behave disgustingly, but most of us will not. And yeah, so Three Lions, like for the past 25 years, that's a song that has just, yeah.
All right. So go England World Cup now, since they did not do whatever they were supposed to do in whatever event just happened.
Yeah, they made it to the final, but they were beaten by Italy on penalty shootouts. But we're still football's coming home.
Okay.
I won't sing it.
Thank you. It was a lot. There's a lot happening right there, which is that little bit.
But later on, after Mel's done the hard pounding, and I'm going to come back and cuddle you up.
Mm-hmm.
You will not believe the number. I had to cut short the number of sports stars and athletes who have tried their hand at music. I was amazed. Some, a lot of them I knew, but some of them I'm like, oh my Lord.
Am I gonna do this to the listeners?
Yes, you are. And then I'm gonna like you said, I'm gonna stroke their hair, and
I like my hair rubbed too. It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's nice.
So
all right.
Over to you, Mel O.
Boom, financial pounding. I was going to do that, but then it looks like it's fisting, and that's gross. So I don't know. Maybe I'll edit that out. Maybe I won't. It depends on how fisty I feel. I probably won't. I'll just be like, I'm too tired. Fuck it. I'll just keep it in there. I'll sound disgusting. Doesn't matter. Okay. So the reason why actually Zoe and I had thought of this idea many, many moons ago, I think it was June of either last year or the year before, and it's been sitting on our ideas list. And the reason why I thought maybe it would be a good time to do it now would be because there is talk. So everybody probably knows that the Raiders are now the Las Vegas Raiders. And there is talk that the A's are looking at moving from Oakland, and that Vegas is once again vying to get a Major League Baseball team. And so we have just literally the Raiders kind of went live in the middle of the pandemic. And so we haven't really had the full experience yet of having a football team. And now they're already talking about bringing on a Major League Baseball team. And so I thought, okay, so let me see if all this fucking money that we're putting out is going to be worth it.
Right.
So we're going to just find out together. I mean, I already know, but we're going to find out together again.
But I don't know.
That's right. Zoe doesn't know.
School me.
Ooh, I'm going to school you. So will you put in pigtails for me?
No.
Okay.
I'm tired.
I'm tired. I don't want to do my hair. I'm in a Garfield t-shirt. Just do your best and let me go to sleep. All right, so let's get into this seriously. So there's a couple definitions that I want to talk about because they're going to come up later in the show. One of them is the velocity of money. So the velocity of money is an economic term for the measurement of how fast money changes hands in an economy. And so you're measuring the velocity of the turnover of the dollars. Then there is what's called a multiplier effect, which is going to come up a couple times. And that refers to a proportional amount of increase or decrease or final income from money that is injected or withdrawn or added due to spending. And the multiplier is used to calculate, to assist in calculate the investment's efficiency. Okay. Then there's the opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost would be like, let's say that, there's a stock that has a potential to return 10%. And it's a risky stock, but then you have a guaranteed 1% savings account over here. Then you have an opportunity cost between those two. And what it does is it helps you to decide one investment over the other while acknowledging that it's not only about returns. You also have to look at the other side of the coin and realize what you're giving up. If you're chasing a higher return that could or could not come through, you need to understand that there's an opportunity cost that you're experiencing when you're giving up a sure thing in order to try to get a higher return. And so with that, let's talk about the pros of bringing a major team. So we're going to talk a lot about the NFL, but just because in the United States, football is the National Football League, and they are big players in the space out of all of the, basketball, NBA, and Major League Baseball and whatnot. The NFL is easily the predominant sport here in the United States. So one of the things that people always talk about, so we just had a Raider Stadium built, the Allegiant Stadium. It looks like a big salsa bowl. And have you been in it yet, Zoe?
No, I mean, I've driven past it a bunch, but I haven't had the opportunity to be in it yet.
Yeah. So for those of you coming down here to visit our big salsa bowl, there's a couple things you want to know. Number one, they only have like literally maybe 100 spots of parking. You have to get a ride to it, or you have to pay like close to $100 to park there. And after your sports viewing pleasure, there is a Hustler Club right down the street. So you can always pop in there and get some really bad chicken wings at their buffet at like 3:30 in the morning. And so that's just, an extra Vegas tourism tip. So a lot of times what they talk about is when they talk about building a stadium, they talk about the economic growth. And they talk about infrastructure development, okay, and about basically the jobs and stuff that it's going to create, and the fact that it's going to increase tourism because the belief is people are going to be coming to the town to watch sports. And of course, we already have Vegas as a tourist attraction already, which now the Strip is starting to explode again as people are starting to travel. And so also it allows to have a big event for like a large scale event, like the Olympics are coming up, or like maybe a Beyonce concert or something like that.
Didn't they just have Garth Brooks there? Is that where it was?
They did, yes. They correct. They just had Garth Brooks at our Salsa Bowl. And I heard he put on a great show. I'm not a huge country person, but I mean, the song, The Dance and Thunder Rolls, I mean, I like it. I wouldn't go see him specifically, but at one time I remember that he was the largest grossing act and in some, like 1 or 2 years. And he did a residency here. Right. I want to say it's Caesars, and it was like sold out constantly. So this motherfucker still has like a lot of fans. And so a lot of times with, the job conversation, there's going to be the temporary jobs, which are going to be the construction jobs that are going to come into an area. And then there's also going to be maybe the longer term jobs, which would be like the actual maintenance of the arenas or the stadiums and, ticket takers and janitorial services, things like that. And so when we're talking about jobs, we're talking about kind of both of those things. And one of the other arguments that people have for building a stadium and having a professional team come is the fact that a lot of times, and this was actually the case in Vegas, is that the stadiums are built in kind of an uninhabited area. So it was just kind of desert where the Allegiant Stadium was built. Like I said, it was just kind of like desert, and then the Hustler Club. And then, and a gun range. So both of those are right next to each other. And so it was
girls and guns.
Is there anything more American?
No, not really.
America. Fuck yeah. Yeah. So, which actually it's a very good range. It's a nice shooting range. At one time, I thought that they sold alcohol, and I thought, wow, doesn't really make sense. But I don't know, maybe I'm mixing it with a driving range of golf. I'm not really sure. And so the thing is that if it goes into an uninhabited area, it can actually create new businesses, and it can create new commercial districts. And this could be, different businesses like lodging and, facilities for private parking, which we just talked about, that Allegiant has absolutely no parking at it, bars and restaurants, merchandise shops, and, at some point museums, et cetera. And then, of course, the one of the pros of having a team is the fact that it just brings good feelings. Not so much when England loses, but with you're sitting at a bar. Somebody might be Republican, somebody might be Democrat, but you both love the home team, and you talk about it. All the history of it, and it kind of bridges those gaps. It also can help cities recover after major catastrophes. Or if, we have a championship run, like the Golden Knights again, almost got their hands on the Stanley Cup. but they didn't. But it kind of brings a good sense of camaraderie, because even if an asshole cuts you off in traffic, which happens a lot, as I'm sure it does where you live, and he has a Viking, or not a Viking, who am I talking about?
The Knights.
He has a Knight sticker. See, I don't watch hockey. He has a Knight sticker on his thing. You're like, he can't be that bad. He likes the Knights. So it kind of bridges that. And of course, again, that you have the ability to maybe host really big events, say like a Super Bowl. And so that's kind of the pros. And so I put all of the resources in the show notes, and I didn't really have an idea. I'm not a sports fan. I don't give a fuck about the Raiders. I just was really curious, because I don't know if the A's come to Las Vegas, if we're going to have to build them a stadium. We just built a very nice brand new stadium for the AA team, which is the feeders to the A's. And so I just started thinking, man, we've talked so much on this show about, like when we did our segments on defunding the police, we talked about how these city budgets are so stretched. And when you're looking at different revenue streams, I'm like, man, is that going to be worth it? So I went, as I always did, into a incognito Google search window. I put in some key, questions, and then I got a bunch of article resources. I read through them. Some of them I used, some of them I didn't use. Some of them I didn't really think were credible. And then from there, I asked other questions, and this is how I have what I have now. So let's go to the cons. And I got to tell you, I was so fucking pissed when I got to this section. I didn't start off pissed, but as I got through it, I got more and more fucking pissed. And if you guys are not as pissed off as me at the end of this, then obviously you just love your fucking sports team regardless. So we're going to start out with a quote from an economist. It says, so Michael Leeds is an economist, and he studies Chicago sports. So he is quoted as saying, if you ever had a consensus in economics, this would be it, that there is no impact for having teams coming. And then he goes on to further quote, if every sports team in Chicago, there's 5 of them, were to suddenly disappear, the impact on the Chicago economy would be a fraction of 1%. A baseball team has about the same impact on a community as a mid-sized department store. So let's start addressing the pro arguments kind of one by one as we go through them. So jobs, right? So that's the big thing. Got to bring jobs in. So construction jobs are temporary, first of all. Now, even though they're long-term temporary, maybe takes 2 years, 2.5 years to record a stadium or to build a stadium, at some point you're done. Now, that's fantastic if they have local workers. But typically there's nothing in contracts that says that they have to use local workers. Right. So that's a big deal. Also, the next thing would be, okay, after the temporary jobs are gone, which is the construction jobs, it's great. You still have maintenance on the building. But as a building it goes, the maintenance and the upkeep of the building is significantly less than the amount of jobs and manpower it's needed to actually build the fucking thing. And also, sometimes those workers are not local, or they are actually employed by a corporation that is in a different city. Mm-hmm. And so those are things, it's not like, hey, we need security services and we're a Las Vegas team and we're going to use a Las Vegas company. No, it doesn't really work like that. Insert your place here, Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, wherever. Now, the permanent jobs that they create, like we talked about before, are the vendors who make the t-shirts or who sell the t-shirts or sell, whatever, walk up and down, sell the beer, janitorial services. And they are also sometimes provided by companies that are out of the city, number one. And number two, you have to remember that these jobs are only seasonal. Right. So this isn't a 365 day a year job that you have. I mean, it's crazy when Vegas retail is more secure than these types of jobs. And these are low paying jobs. It's not like, these are low paying jobs for people that usually work for fun, and it's seasonal. So the amount of financial impact that really comes into the city is questionable at best. Now, there is, new restaurants that we talked about. Like if you build a stadium in an uninhabited area, hey, you can have restaurants pop up around it and all that stuff, which all that's good until the football season's over and there's no big concerts in the area, or something like COVID happens that had literally just sprang up as a way to service patrons of a very specific venue. And now those places will be struggling if that is their primary reason for existing. Now, another thing that everybody talks about is new spending, right? People are going to spend more money. This is awesome. I'm gonna take a drink. I'm drinking water because I'm flying out tomorrow. So by the time this airs, I will have flown out and came back already, unless the plane crashes and I die. And if that's the case, then everybody can enjoy that. Well, actually, you wouldn't enjoy this because I'm the one who edits it and puts it on the air. So I guess nobody would know except Zoe. So she would be the only person party to my eulogy. You're welcome, Zoe.
Oh,
I know. Warm. I'm full of warm and fuzzies. So new spending. So they always talk about, but people are going to spend money. It's going to create new money and everything. So we're going to, as I go through this, I'm going to start bringing up a lot of past episodes that we've done, because I want you guys to start connecting all of the dots so that when you're thinking about money, you can see how everything seems isolated, but it's actually all part of the big picture. So will people spend money? Yes, absolutely. People are going to spend money. They're going to buy tickets. They're going to buy, $15 beers. They're going to buy t-shirts and all kinds of shit. But it's important to note that there is no actual creation of new money. So if you have a certain amount of money in a local economy, if you have an entertainment budget of $100, then you can choose to spend $100 watching a football team, or you can spend $100 at your local bar. Right. You're not spending $200. You're not doing both. You're not taking 100 here and 100 there. So you're not spending any more money. All you're doing is reallocating the money within the local economy. Now, a lot of advocates of the publicly funded stadiums talk about the multiplier of money, which we talked about before, and talked about how the construction jobs create money and that they can build on themselves and create more money. But again, we've already addressed that once those construction jobs, which are typically the higher jobs, go away, that money goes away, and then you're left with the lower paying, very few intermediate seasonal work. Now, we talked about something similar to this on our tariff episode, and this was a hot topic at the time that we recorded it. And one of the examples that I talked about was about, like, let's say there's a dressmaker and a little kid throws a rock and shatters the window, and that's $250. So now the dressmaker has to go, and he goes to the window maker and he has to buy a window. And then the window maker in turn, because he made this $250 window for the butcher, is able to go buy a nice dinner for his sweetheart or something like that. He's able to, buy a good piece of furniture for his house. And so what happens is that people can go, oh man, look at all this money that's been created from this little kid breaking a window. But the flip side of that is always the fact that if the little kid had not broken the dressmaker's window, the dressmaker would have had $250 extra as well as a whole window. And so when we're talking about the economics of spending money, and we're talking about money coming into a system, this is what we get caught up in. And across the board, economist after economist keep coming back to this losing proposition that the actual numbers reflect of having a team come to your city or state. So if you want to hear about tariffs, it was not one of our most exciting episodes, as you could assume, being about tariffs, but you can go back and you can listen to that and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And then of course, there's land costs. Okay, so you have to buy the actual fucking land. So if you're someplace like New York, LA, someplace where property is just astronomically through the roof, that's going to be something that is very expensive. One of the things that can potentially happen is when you have a professional sports team come in and they have these big events, is that you can experience crowding out of other smaller events. So There is Mark Chinook, hopefully will be coming on the show soon. He's fantastic, very philanthropic, and he does a show here called Monday's Dark, as well as announced for UFC. He does a whole bunch of shit. And it is what?
And for the Golden Knights.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, UFC and Golden Knights. So the guy is everywhere. If you've watched any of those, you know exactly who we're talking about. Well, he hosts Monday's Dark in their venue, which is kind of close to the Allegiant Stadium. And so what happens sometimes is that when you have a huge event come through, it can actually crowd out smaller local events that actually do more to help your community as an individual. Because if I don't want to go see the Raiders game, but all the fucking traffic is stupid, like towards New Year's Eve, locals, we do not go to the Strip most of the time. It is a fucking clusterfuck. I'm sure New York experiences the same thing. And so a lot of times what we can see that effect is actually having a derogatory effect on the economy for the true local economy, supporting the local economic system. And of course, I had to touch on this because we just did the power grid episode. It stresses the power grid. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it stresses our water. And we haven't got into water supply yet across the United States, but that's something we will be talking about. But that's just such a deep subject. I don't want to tackle that right now. And so another one of the pro arguments was, hey, you have this great big stadium now, and you can do a Super Bowl. And you can, bring money in that way because we have this. And so Super Bowl events are separate from normal stadium buildings and maintenance and vendor taking and tickets and concessions and all of that other kind of stuff. This is stuff that is added onto it. It's an event. It has its own cost centers that come with it. And of course, you need added security, and there's experienced traffic delays. And we have, lessened productivity with people who are maybe caught in, the myriad of people trying to get in and out of a stadium. So in 2016, San Francisco hosted the Super Bowl, and the city had paid to reroute cars and buses and had to fund police overtime for the extra security, sanitation, everything that went in there. And that the Super Bowl ended up costing them $9.6 million to host.
Right.
Okay. And nobody can really get good numbers on if they actually made any of that money back. And I'm going to tell you why it's really hard for that to happen here in a second. But they did have economic data that said that the restaurants said that they experienced a 40 to 50% reduction in reservations during the time of the Super Bowl because locals didn't want to come the fuck out and go deal with traffic to go to their favorite restaurant to eat something. Right. Now, with all of this going on, we're going to talk about fucking monopolies again here in a second. Antitrust laws do not apply to major broadcasting deals where you have a major broadcasting company do an exclusive deal with the NFL. And so we touched on this with the last, the Power Grid episode where we talked about the cable companies. And so the NFL does exclusive, contracts with different things. And so the antitrust doesn't apply to them. And NFL, which any sports fan knows, has the ability, or the balls, as far as I'm concerned, has the balls to block out local games if the game isn't sold out. So you could have put up the taxpayer money to bring bring the Raiders here, and then the Raiders don't sell out. And the stadium, I think, is like 65,000 seater or something. Like, it's fucking stupid, right? And if it doesn't sell out, then the NFL can just decide that the fucking fans of the Las Vegas Raiders or your hometown, insert here, doesn't get to watch the fucking game, right? So if that by itself doesn't piss you off, hold tight, because this gets so much worse. Now, during all of this, Roger Goodall, who's the commissioner of the NFL, makes $30 million a year.
Good on him.
Not good on him. And
that was sarcastic.
That's what?
That was sarcastic.
Sarcastic. Okay. Sarcastic. Now, a lot of the budget is spent on players. Okay. Which, I mean, is pretty obvious. You hear about people going free agent all the time, and they're signing new contracts and they're jumping from team to team. And so when we're talking about bringing more money into a place, we have players that get paid ungodly amounts of money, but most times they don't live where their team is. You know, it's not like the members of the Raiders are living in Las Vegas, right? So they take their money and they go back home to wherever they are, or they go to wherever they want to live, but they're not kicking around supporting the local community. They're not giving back. They're not helping, you know, underprivileged here people or in your home state. They're not doing that. They're taking their money and they're fucking off over there, wherever they go. And so again, it's just another kind of another side of the coin of, oh, all this money is going to come into here. And in 2003, analysis on the Staples Center was commissioned by the Los Angeles City Controller, and they found something very interesting. They said, quote, in the report, economic activity in Inglewood actually increased when the Lakers left. So let's give you an example. And this is going to start really getting into numbers. And this is where I wanted to fucking find every owner of a football team and kick him in the nuts. And if it was girl, hit her in her tit. I don't know. So the Atlanta Falcons, the stadium cost $2 billion for construction. 700 million of it was paid by taxpayers. An average stadium generates $145 million per year. But this is the kicker. When we're talking about all of the money that is generated by a stadium, the lion's share of ticket sales and concessions and insert here goes to the league and the owners. There's no, in most of the contracts that were established for stadiums, there is nothing that forces, in this case, the NFL to actually give back any portion of that fucking money to the taxpayers who flip the bill for the fucking stadium. I swear I did not know that. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, right? So you raise our taxes, or in whatever way you do, and we'll talk a little bit about what happens with the Raiders here, so that you guys can get money for a stadium so you can get fucking richer, because most owners of major teams are billionaires, you guys, okay? So taxpayers are paying money to build fucking stadiums for billionaires. It gets worse. We're going to get into it. Now, in general, 70% of all costs, now we're going to talk about costs. In general, 70% of all costs for building and maintaining stadiums is funded by the taxpayers. Okay. Now, all the while, and Zoe, I wish I would have known this when we did our 501c episode where we did the nonprofits, because we really hit the churches hard. We really did on that segment. Well, the NFL is tax-free status nonprofit.
What?
Right. I fucking swear to God, I did not know that. And soon as I read that, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So the NFL generates about $9 billion in revenues. And last year, about $9 billion in revenues. And all in the midst of this, you guys have to remember that we've talked about how a lot of cities are running short on their budget. So these fuckers, billionaires, have stadiums built for them and then are maintained after charging taxpayers to build these, I almost said a bad word, these fucking stadiums, then maintain these fucking stadiums while the fucking NFL is a nonprofit status, generated $9 billion fucking dollars last year in revenues. Okay, remember that was COVID too, all right? Amidst all of these cities' fucking shortfalls, and NFL owners who are already fucking billionaires get on average about $1 billion a year in subsidies from cities, and again, primarily beneficiaries. So basically, these bastards could build their own fucking stadiums, but they pit cities against each other. Oh, well, if you don't give us what we want, or you don't give us a new stadium, we're going to move over here. Like we saw it with Seattle Supersonics. They became the Oklahoma Thunders, right? We saw it with, Oakland Raiders, then LA Raiders, then Oakland Raiders, then LA Raiders, and now they're Vegas Raiders. And these bastards, on top of that, get subsidies. Okay. $1 billion in subsidies a year for a fucking billionaire. Are you fucking kidding me, for a sports team? And that's not even the half of it. It gets fucking worse. Okay. Now, again, the way that the deals are structured, the lion's share of the concessions and the tickets and all of this stuff goes to the leagues. Doesn't go back to the taxpayers. How the fuck are we getting paid back? Well, we're not. We're not. right? Now, oftentimes we talk about the direct cost of building a stadium, okay? Like the stadium, I believe it was $1.9 billion to build the Raider Stadium here. $750 million of it came from taxpayers. Now, a lot of times we talk about that, but there's indirect costs that get swept under the rug that nobody considers. So this would be like monies that cities have to spend on improving infrastructure around the stadium just to be able to facilitate people in and out of it. Okay. And then this would be maybe transportation to get them there. So again, with the Allegiant Stadium, there's hardly no parking, which means that people have to either go to a casino and they have to walk across, which is kind of far. So they usually don't do that. And they have to Uber to the stadium. So they have to start building in all of these various infrastructures, because remember, if they're building in uninhabited areas, then the roads probably are not very wide at that point. And so they have to still go in there and they still have to make that drivable so that they can facilitate the movement of traffic in and out. All right. Now, while taxpayers are flipping the bill, the valuation of these teams keeps going up. And I'm going to share some numbers here in a minute at the end of this that are going to make you fucking sick. Okay. So let's just go with some old ass numbers. So fans are flipping the bill to get a stadium in, and then flipping the bill again for subsidies for billionaire professional team owners who are then patronizing the sports arena and and supporting the team, which is driving the valuation of the team, the asset, because the team is an asset, driving it up for the billion-dollar owners. Okay. Now, I have talked so much on this show about the difference between the 99% and the 1%. And I swear to God, I wanted to punch a fucking wall after I was reading this. So let me give you some examples. In 1994, the Raiders went back to Oakland from LA, and they had been promised a whole bunch of renovations to the stadium. And the bill ended up costing $350 million for that to happen. It won't be paid off until 2025. They're not even fucking in Oakland anymore. They're here now. Okay. Now, and in 2001, the Raiders were valued at, this is 2001. The Raiders were valued at $351 million. Okay. So you're the owner of that team, and your asset, your team, the Raiders, is worth $351 million. And in 2017, the Raiders was worth $2.38 billion. Okay. So let's go back. And I'm going to keep repeating this because you guys really got to fucking hear what I'm trying to tell you. We pay for the stadiums. We pay for the subsidies. We pay to go to the fucking football games. Then we patronize the teams, who adds more wealth to the billionaires who are already getting subsidies that we've already paid for. Now, to go further, baseball is not going to be anything as large as the NFL here in this country, but baseball, we talked about the A's. So in the same time frame, the value of the A's appreciated fourfold to the tune of $1.05 billion. And the Golden State Warriors during the same time swelled by a factor of 12 to $3.1 billion. And that has been on the backs of taxpayers. We've already said that most cities pay for approximately 70% of all the upkeep on these fucking stadiums for these billionaire owners. And I, some of you guys might be sitting there listening to me and you think this bitch is crazy, whatever. No, fuck it. You guys listen to what I'm telling you. Look anywhere in your city, whatever it is that you love. Okay. If you have a concern with homeless people, if you have a love of cats like Zoe, or if you are concerned about education, whatever it is that touches your heart, and just fucking think for 2 seconds. Take any of that. Take the $1 billion in subsidies. Take the 70% of maintaining those stadiums out of the budget, and then put that to whatever it is you love. Education, cats, homeless people, financial literacy. Do you understand the impact that could have on your city, on your neighbors, on the people that you see in your day-to-day life? Would it make your streets cleaner? Absolutely it would. Okay. But it gets worse. So during all this time, in conjunction with all of this going on between the Raiders going back and forth from Oakland and LA, Oakland was rated the worst roads in the county, in the country, I'm sorry, in the country, the worst roads in the country. And Oakland Unified School District had to cut 340 jobs for school year 2019 to 2020. Okay. And the remnants of their homeless shelter that they have is supported by outside spending. Okay. Now, in most, and then we're going to get on my favorite topic that I swear to God, I can't get away from here in a second. Private ownership is basically the way that the NFLs and the Major League Baseballs and all that stuff is ran. Okay. There is not public ownership of teams. Now, the Green Bay Packers try to, be on some bullshit and say that they're publicly owned. They're not. Okay. We've spoken about this many times on different shows here. We've talked about when you are a publicly traded company, if Mel's Yoga Pants is a publicly traded company, I need to have transparent, open to anybody, audited financial statements to be a publicly traded companies. But the NFL and the owners of the teams aren't opening their books. So you're not a true shareholder in their business. You might get a fucking bobblehead, or you might get some bullshit certificate that says you're an owner, but you're fucking not. So you have private owners and they're not opening their books so they can say that they have losses, because there's a lot of tax rules that companies use to be able to show losses on their books. And one of the big ones is depreciation. So you can depreciate assets, but you can also depreciate contracts. And so what happens is that it's very easy for an NFL team company, same thing, to say that they had losses and nobody knows. But in the meantime, even if they have losses, the owners are still getting paid. Now, anytime, and again, I'm just using the NFL as an example, anytime NFL teams want to start some shit between cities, it's very, very easy for them to do that. And then what they do is they start, threatening to leave. And then, of course, voters get very upset, because if you love the Raiders and you don't want the Raiders to leave, and your candidate is saying, we got to keep the Raiders, and the other candidate is saying, fuck the Raiders, this is not fiscally responsible and we can do a lot more with that money, who the fuck do you think 9 times out of 10 people are going to vote for, right? That's at the heart of fucking behavioral finances. I like the Raiders, or I like my insert name here of my football team. It makes me feel good. This guy wants to keep him. This guy wants to get rid of it. And then people vote accordingly. I'm not saying that that's the only thing, but in a lot of cases it is. Monopolies. NFLs have natural monopolies. NFL teams have natural monopolies. Now, we talked about what a natural monopoly was in the U.S. Grid episode that we just did. The U.S. Grid episode, utility companies have natural monopolies because the barrier to entry is so cost prohibitive that you need to have a fuck ton of money to get infrastructure in place. So by default, the NFL teams have natural monopolies. So what they do a lot of times is they pit cities against each other, and they're cost prohibitive, which means that there's only certain cities that have remotely kind of large enough budget to be competing for these teams. And it's something similar to what Amazon did when they were trying to find a home for their second headquarters, and they went and they put all these cities against each other, and they were rewarded $3 billion in tax breaks. This motherfucker just went to space. This motherfucker is worth $126 billion. At what point are we going to stop and be like, no, fuck you and your horse. I'm not giving you shit, asshole. You've made enough money. We buy shit off of Amazon. That's enough. Fuck you. Eat a dick. Fucking come out of pocket with it. But no, what we do is we keep protecting the 1% on the backs of the 99%. If you've ever read Animal Farm, we're the fucking horse, you guys. And this is why this is my passion, financial literacy, and closing this gap, because it just gets worse and worse and worse. Now, if in the event that they stopped all that bullshit, then there could be more teams, which would allow for more diversity. And the thing is if you have more people playing the game, you don't have to keep coming up with these, outdoing each other when there's this small pool of people and just more and more and more money and more tax breaks and more of this other kind of stuff. And then when they threaten to leave, you can tell them to eat a dick, which I think would be fucking fantastic if they did that. So let's talk a little bit about, just like for a half second, about college football. Okay. College football is also big business, especially in states like Texas and Alabama. They have big college football programs. So the University of Alabama, their football program brought in like $174 million in revenue in 2018. Okay. Which is comparable to some sports teams. However, Alabama, they were funded entirely by the school. So this college is not getting, I mean, you could argue that they're getting different subsidies in different ways and they're getting different tax breaks, but they funded it themselves. So how do you fight this, right? Because this sounds like this is a losing proposition. This is like a fucking race to the bottom and bullshit on all accords. Well, one of the things that has been suggested, which actually a part of California tried to do it, but the local governments can come in and claim eminent domain on the stadiums. So if a team wants to start dicking around and a team wants to start, fucking with people and saying that they need more of this, that, and the other thing, the local governments could grow a pair and they could come in and go, well, fuck you. We're just going to take over your stadium and we're going to declare eminent domain and you can fuck right off. This is going to round this out here because I wanted to touch on one more time about how you guys can understand the assets that you and I and everyone who goes to sports teams, specifically, again, we're mainly focused on the NFL, that they're contributing to. So Mark Davis and his mother, if she's still alive, owns the Raiders. All right. And he inherited the Raiders from the husband. And he is worth, I've found conflicting stories. He's worth anywhere from $250 million to $500 million. And he got it in October of 2011 after his father died, who was a businessman, and the father left it to the only son, which is Mark, and the wife, Carol. In 1966, his father purchased the Oakland Raiders for $180,000. As of September of 2020, his asset is worth $3.1 billion. That for decades in these stadiums will continue to generate money for the team as long as they decide to stay, assuming they don't whip their dick out and then go just to the next taxpayer windfall that they're going to get. And I was so absolutely disgusted by this, you guys. I can't even tell you the fucking rage that I was feeling. And so I know that at one point when I lived in Washington with the Seahawks stadium, I believe that it came up for a vote twice and it was voted down. And the government squeezed it through anyway. So I know that we have listeners that are in the Seattle, Tacoma, area. So if you want to correct me on that and let me know exactly what I'm talking to, please let me know. But I lived there at the time and I couldn't believe that shit. So anyway, we're going to have, I need Zoe to come in and cuddle me because I'm feeling a little angry and
Well,
just.
I can't speak before I get to that. I mean, I can't speak to the NFL, but my family are big Golden Knight fans. And I do have to say, and you touched upon it a little bit earlier on, that there's no doubt that the Golden Knights, they've only been here a few years, but they definitely played a big part in uniting the city after the October 1st shooting. And I know for a fact that a lot of the players do have homes here. And they do a lot for the community. My husband's always bumping into one or various players in grocery stores. And on a community level, I think the Golden Knights, obviously they're much smaller than NFL teams.
And I think hockey players are just more humble in general.
Yeah, I'm just saying that in terms of what they give back,
no, they seem like a bunch of good guys.
That they seem to be, from what I can tell. Now I'm going to lighten the mood somewhat. I'm going to talk about, and I could not believe the amount of sports stars from around the world who seem to think just because they're entertaining in whatever sport they're good at, that they therefore must be able to have some kind of music career. And on the whole, generally, they should stick at what they're good at.
Yeah. Some
of these you won't know. Well, actually, probably most of them you won't know because I didn't either. We're not big sports fans. But starting with Manchester United striker Andy Cole, who's very famous in England, released a rap song called Outstanding in 1999, which was absolutely anything but. But Mel, I challenge you to find that and put that on our
I'll do my best
podcast list. 10-time Olympic medalist Carl Lewis should have stuck to running. after releasing a terrible reggae-fused pop track in 1987 called Break It Up. See if you can find that one.
Mm.
American boxer Roy Jones Jr. failed to pack a punch. I'm doing all these little awful
Oh, that's
puns,
I
by
see
the
what
way.
you did there. I see what
Like
you did there. Yeah.
Failed.
I mean, I don't like it, but I see what you did.
No, I know, but I'm trying to get as many dad jokes in as I can. He failed to pack a punch with his 2002 debut album, Round One, the album, which included a song called Y'all Must Have Forgot, in which he listed his in-ring achievements like an awkward grocery list. So that sounds like one we need to hear. And then former tennis number one Caroline Wozniacki released an EDM single called Oxygen in 2012. I haven't heard it, thank goodness, but you apparently can't even tell it's her voice because it's so heavily synthesized. But she tries to remind you who she is by saying awful lines like, "Boy, you're my match point."
Oh God.
Just to remind you who's serving the tunes. Another great one. I know.
Dude, how long did you I don't even want to know. Go on. I was
No,
gonna ask you how
no.
long it took you.
All of these just come to me. I'm
Wow. Okay. All right.
I'm such a comic genius.
You are
yeah.
truly.
Right. And then NBA legend Kobe Bryant signed a record deal with Sony, but his debut single was entitled KOBE and had Tyra Banks providing backing vocals. And I think that's probably all you need to know about that. But
yeah, like I'm a basketball player who shouldn't be singing, and then I'm gonna get a fucking supermodel to
yeah. And it was such a flop that Sony dropped him. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Then ex-Formula One race car champion Jacques Villeneuve, who's from Canada, proved once again that you should stick to what you know. With his first song, Accepterai tout, released in 2006, followed by a whole album called Private Paradise in 2007, which was so awful, it sold 233 copies.
Oh, oh God, that hurt.
Ouch. I mean, you'd think that you'd be able to buy up a few more just yourself, wouldn't you?
Shit.
I know, that's painful. Then going back to the English football, hard man of English football, Vinnie Jones, he had a crack at music and released his debut album, Respect, in 2002. Now, anyone who knows Vinnie Jones knows he's actually had a pretty successful acting career, but not so much in the music field. But he still hasn't given up the singing bug, and he actually took part in the X Factor celebrity in the UK. So he, you know, they just, these people, they don't learn. They don't learn. Now, I remember this. So other British footballers who've given it a college try with the old singing, Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle, they were very famous footballers who played for Tottenham Hotspurs or Spurs at the time. They also both played for England, I believe. They released a song called Diamond Lights in 1987. It got to number 12 in the UK charts. And Mel, I remember them on our our music show, which was called Top of the Pops, wearing awful 80s suits and, you know, doing awful dad dancing. And oh my God, it was terrible. But, you know, again, they gave it a go. And I think they did one follow-up. I was going to say hit, but it wasn't a hit song. But then they realized that they best give it up. Then wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage had he had a rap album in 2003.
God,
a rap album in 2003, and on it he featured a diss track to to Hulk Hogan, who used to be his wrestling partner. So
Hulk Hogan was on the track with him?
No, he was dissing him in one of the rap tracks. Oh, it's just so, isn't it awful?
Two non-talented rapper white guys dissing each other. I don't know if that has a lot of teeth. Snap into a Slim Jim. I can't fucking think about it.
No, Hulk Hogan wasn't on it. He was just dissing him like Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan would give a fucking shit. I'm sure, he wasn't listening to his music going, oh no, I must.
Talking shit about me.
Yeah,
it was probably all planned. They probably had a conversation. I mean, that's how wrestling goes anyway.
Probably. Then boxer Oscar de la Hoya released a self-titled album in 2000 and actually had songs written by Diane Warren and the Bee Gees. And it was actually nominated for a Grammy. So that's how bad the Grammys are. Because, yeah. And then get this. I don't know if you know about this, but boxer Mike Tyson did a cover of Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. I have to, you have to find that and put that on.
I know, but if Spotify doesn't have it, I'm not going to be able to find it. But really good. I can't even imagine his voice singing.
Oh, I can't. I typed after it, what the fuck? But I also, at some point, I'm going to look it up and have to listen.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, as a matter of fact, as soon as we're done here, we're going to keep recording. We're going to fucking YouTube that shit and we're going to watch it together. It's going to be awful and great.
Because I absolutely adore that song. So, yeah. Now, okay. It's not just footballers and boxers and wrestlers. Tennis, although this is like not an awful, music, a foray into music. Tennis legend John McEnroe, you cannot be serious, apparently learned to play the guitar from his friends, Eric Clapton and Eddie Van Halen, as you do. And he went on to form a band with his wife, rock star Patti Smith. And they had called the band Johnny Smith Band. And they actually toured throughout the 90s and performed with the likes of Bruce Springsteen and Santana. So, he actually apparently was pretty good.
Now Patty was carrying that whole fucking thing.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
but still. Okay, then I was trying to cover as many sports as possible, even though I didn't know who half these people were. There was a baseball player for the San Diego Padres called Tim Flannery, who has actually gone on to have a really successful bluegrass career and has released over 12 albums with his band Flan. So good for you. And then finally, one of the only other sports stars to really maintain a music career, if you can call it that, is of course NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal, who apparently, according to several, well, I don't know, some called it terrible, but the one I read said probably the greatest rapping athlete of all time. I'm sure there'll be people who disagree with that, but he has released 4 albums and collaborated with a ton of hip hop greats, including Biggie, Jay-Z, and Warren G. So Shaq apparently is, apparently made that transition, although we won't.
Yeah, a little questionable.
Yeah,
Wow.
questionable. But honestly, there were so many that's just a little snifter at some of the sport stars and athletes who think that they're musically talented and clearly are not.
Well, that will wrap up this episode. Jesus Christ, that wasn't quite the palate cleansing that I was hoping for, but
Mike Tyson singing In the Air Tonight.
We're finding it. We're finding it right after we're done here. As a matter of fact, go Google that shit right now, because that's the first thing I'm doing when we end this. So we want to thank you guys for listening. Feel free to follow us on social media. If you like us, please rate and review us and subscribe. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel. You can catch us on Kill Pop Radio, which fucking kicks much ass. You can get my book, Finance is the Other F Word, Another F Word to Love, Amazon, Barnes Noble, Target, yada, yada. You can follow Lily Lou Mittens on Instagram, and you can go to our website, Finance the Other F Word, and look at our swag and merch. And we appreciate you guys for listening, and we're out this bitch.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Please check back for upcoming episodes and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Finances, the Other F Word.